There's a wide array, Torito being some of the drugs, and yeah, the wide array of drugs that young people your age could be particularly using. Is it because perhaps it's like you rightly said that it could be just depression, or it could be going through whatever problems that young people go through, or what other things that you believe that young people your age then choose to resort to drugs for?
All right. I'd like to think of it as having too much idle time. You need something to fill that gap.
Yes.
So you don't know what you're going to end up doing to fill up the time. To even have depression, I'd like to think of it as being idle.
Idle, okay.
In a way. Because if you're occupied 24/7, you're thinking, would you really have time to think, no, I'm depressed because so and this and this happened. It has happened, but it's not going to change.
Yeah.
You know, you need to ignore emotions and want progress.
Absolutely.
Progress over emotions every time.
Yeah. So it goes with being occupied, it goes with keeping yourself busy, it goes with making sure that they do say an idle mind is the devil's workshop, and perhaps that is why many of these young people are choosing to resort to these drugs. But also taking a look at some of the statistics in Zimbabwe, we do know for a fact that it's not easy perhaps for a young person to stay busy. For example, you decided to go ahead and appreciate that you need to be affirmative, you need to take action, you need to be proactive, and perhaps put yourself in spaces and do business, and also go to school at the same time.
Yes.
We will talk about that and more perhaps in the later context of our conversation, but always a pleasure to be speaking to young people such as Kevin Mazhindu. At this present moment, we are about to step a little bit further into more of this conversation, dialect, as well as an appreciation of the commemorations that are currently taking place at the Lupane State University. We did know, or we did mention that 20,000 youth are gathered for these very special commemorations at the Lupane State University, which is all the way in Matabeleland North. Big shout out to all the youth who are watching us from wherever you are. Perhaps it may not just be in Zimbabwe. We are also streaming live on our Facebook page, which is a ZBC News Online. Now, also speaking to some of the sectors, we are appreciating the youth in arts, and also taking into cognizance that in the cultural and creative sector, Zimbabwe is a shining of stars that have emerged in music through the development of a whole new musical genre such as urban grooves and Zim dancehall, whose household names include Rockford Rocky Josfats, the late liberation hero Saul Musaka, aka Soldier Love, and Arnold Kamujgariwa, aka DJ Fantan, in the Chill Spot Records in Mbare, amongst many others. We do know of names like Holy 10. We do know of names like based all the way outside the country, Dr. Chai, as well as Confused. The list is endless, and we do know that many youth are doing great things within the sectors that they affect, and this is particularly to do with the arts sector. And we also know that the film industry is booming with regards to the youth. We speak of names like Tongai Chirisa, Danai Gurira, Sydney Taivavashe, who is a director, and these are names that are also thriving with regards to creating content, some of the content that you also get to see here on a ZBC TV. Now, we also take a very, very great look at some of the names that are affecting the fashion industry. We do know of the brand Zargushia, which is spearheaded by Ishmael Takata, as well as Eglet Mutengwa Nyabure, who is making it in Netherlands. We do know that the likes of Zargushia himself has managed to scoop awards in Dubai. Now, we want to bring the conversation back into studio as we still further our conversation in the world of business, as we take more of a look into some of the youth. And in studio, as you had seen before, if you're just joining us, my name is Curtly Gwindi, and I am sitting here with Kevin Mazhindu, who is a young entrepreneur, an advocate expert with regards to all issues affecting business, and also a student at our very premium university here in Zimbabwe, which is the University of Zimbabwe. Now, it's always good to have another Yuba sitting next to one Yuba in studio. Kevin, how are you feeling?
Great talking to you, bro.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, we were speaking earlier about the issues to do with drug abuse, and we do know that there is the mantra within that is embedded within our vision for the land and our country, which is the Vision 2030, which says that Nika inovakwa newe newayo, which means that the youth are also very, very responsible for building up and also bringing up the economy brick by brick. Now, how do you see that the youth can also manage to build an upper middle income economy by 2030? You are 21 years old. We always have to keep on saying that because this is a youth program, and many young people obviously look up to you for the ideas that you have already set with regards to an example. How do you feel that the young people can also achieve this Vision 2030?
Certainly. First thing I think is we need to get our mindset right. We need to shift from trying to create first world ideas in here in Zim. The thing is, you can't create a dating app and think that you're gonna blow up or get the revenue you're expecting from that. When the government is offering opportunities to young people, certainly like us, there's the parliament building, they're opening tenders. Participate in those things. Those are practical things that bring actual money. You can't be generating apps day in, day out and think that you're trying. This is very realistic, So yes, first thing is get the mindset right. Second thing is to execute. It's useless to have ideas that are not executed or seen through. So try to work through ideas, implement, and seek for opportunities. Don't wait for opportunities to come to you. I've always been told that be prepared and the world will meet you halfway. Universe will meet you halfway if you're prepared.
So preparation meets opportunity.
Certainly.
Absolutely.
Certainly.
And how have you prepared yourself for some of the opportunities that you have managed to encounter? Well, you did mention something quite interesting to our viewers. Speaking of tenders, we do know of the amazing projects that are being done by this Second Republic. You did cite one, which is the Parliament building, and you're saying there's tenders that are being made. But how is the access to these tenders for young people like yourself? Right. Where do they go? How do they find them? You are obviously someone who has managed to also tap into some of those things. How best do you think someone who's watching from out there who is saying, no, I don't want to do the dating app, but I now want to do the tenders. How best do they have access to these things?
Okay, so the thing is, the fact that you're young is a competitive advantage if you're trying to compete for things like this. So like, if you sit in meetings, if suddenly, when you compete for a tender, you submit the papers, they also bring you for a meeting. So these guys are wondering, who's this guy? You're surrounded by 40, 50-year-olds, you're the youngest guy in the room, and they're wondering, who's this guy?
How has that feeling been for you?
It's been great, actually. It's been great because you've had to live up to the expectations. They're thinking, this guy is young, so suddenly you can do something fresh, you can bring fresh ideas. That's your competitive advantage. If you're competing for tenders, jobs, whatever it is, the very single fact that you're young, you're a youth, is a competitive advantage. Yes.
Okay, so taking a look at some of the statistics, many of the organizations as well as projects and even opportunities, like you've rightly said, are offered to people in older spaces or people within the older age brackets. And, taking a look at even our parliament itself, our leadership, they say everything rises and falls on leadership. There's a little bit of opportunity now that is being brought for the young people. There's a saying that goes, anything that is done for the youth without the youth is not for the youth. How do you digest or put in that statement, taking into cognizance or context of what is currently happening in our country?
All right. The youth could feel that they're sabotaged in a way, which is true because these guys are fresh ideas. This is the present world. things change. So they are sabotaged. I'm not going to neglect that fact because they have fresh ideas. They have a fresh approach to these things. So certainly they won't be given a space to execute because then they'll bring the results that are being looked for.
Oh, yes.
So certainly they will neglect that side and sabotage. So I do feel that it does exist. It is a challenge, but it's not something that will stop you.
Okay, absolutely. And there is a significant or magnanimous rather amount of youth that are in mining. In energy, in infrastructure. We know environment and tourism is also a very a strong point or backbone with regards to some of the development in our communities and in our country at large. We do know that health and social welfare, sports, arts, ICT, innovation, as well as advocacy. But we know that, you know, there's a very, very huge number that are already in arts. That are already in music, that are already in rap, that are already in the visual arts itself. Not many young people are diverting or converting the energy they have, the ideas, like you've rightly said, to business and many of these other sectors that we've mentioned. They think that kutoridza magitare and tapping into a talent. You know, I read the other day that there's a saying that every young man has an innate within them need to want to be a rapper at some point within growing up.
Certainly I've been
like yourself. Oh, you're a testimony to that. Yes. So that surely speaks volumes to some of the, I think it's focus. We speak so much of unfocused youth, quote unquote, on social media. And you yourself, I think, are not in any of these spaces anymore. Because you said you're no longer trying to do, you're a student. And you're also a businessman. You're a young entrepreneur. But how would you say, or how would you speak to all these young people who think that music is going to be the way to go? You know, we speak so many things to, well, here on ZBC we interview artists week in, week out. We have a channel here that is totally dedicated, which is called Jive TV, and we dedicate it to musicians. But how would you speak to all these young people who think that music is the answer, is the future, and perhaps being a rapper is going to be the ultimate way to go, and there's no other way? You know, the agricultural sector has no room for them, the tourism sector has no room for them. Yeah, and the business, what do we do with young people like that?
If it's a talent, they'll obviously see it through. So you can't really change them off the course of their path. But what I do believe is, regardless of the industry you're in, you can always do business. There's always a way to bring
monetize
the entrepreneur side in you. So if you're doing music, you're an artist, the way you handle your bookings, the way you talk to people, the way you engage in partnerships with brands, how to market brands. You can do marketing, but in music, you know, there's always a way to monetize, like you said,
and do business within that space.
Right. So don't neglect that side, because what you would do is you would think that you're going somewhere, but you're really not going somewhere. You end up complaining. You know, you're complaining. It's not going good. It's not, but it's really your fault, because you have to monetize whatever art you're in. If it's arts, if you're a painter, if you do whatever you do, visual arts, like you said, monetize that stuff. And
how you know, you've rightly put it in a way that speaks volumes to some of the things that the young people are now doing. Maybe it's because of the digital age, which then brings me to my next contribution on this day, which is the National Youth Day. Many of the youth are making use of social media. How have you managed to make the use of social media very integral with regards to some of the businesses that you're into?
So my very first business, I actually had, you know, DJ Towers? He helped me push that. He would repost. I didn't pay him to do this. It was just out of good. He'd repost my brand, all of that stuff. So he helped me market my brand. That's how I really got the market that I was looking for. So social media, how to utilize social media is to target relationships with people that are quite influential, that will help you break through the market. So that's how I use social media to break through the market. And also after that, I had a lot of youths following me simply because of inspiration. You get a DM every day, you inspire me, then you're shocked, you know. It's a bit surprising. So at least if you're
Big
driving
shout
the
out to all
right,
those who are coming to your DMs.
at least you're driving the right influence to the people.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, even people from where you grew up, Udiriro, they're coming. Bro, we used to stay together. Where are you now? You know, happy to see you in these spaces.
Yeah.
Now your next quest is to bring us into those spaces that you're in.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the digital media space is obviously quite integral with regards to growing a business, or even just like you rightly said, inspiring other young people.
Yes.
But at the same time, we do know that the digital media space is being used for the wrong reasons. It's very factual. We know that social media is good and bad.
Yeah.
And what are the things that the youth are using social media for the wrong reasons for? The shameful things.
All right. So the first, I think, should attack every problem at the root.
Yeah.
All these other things are just manifestations of the actual problems.
Yeah.
I think fame is a drug.
Fame is a drug, yeah.
It's a drug that people don't know.
And it's funny
yet.
because with the theme today is drug and substance abuse, yeah.
Fame is a drug, and people, you don't know what length they're going to go to just to get that.
Yeah.
So because it's perceived as cool
to
smoke weed, to do shisha, drink alcohol.
Oh, yes.
So if I post a story right now and I'm doing shisha, I've got...
And you're famous.
You know?
Yeah.
They're seeing that. They're seeing that stuff.
Yeah.
Then you're perceived as cool.
Yeah.
So that's what drives people.
So it then becomes acceptable to people who are at a lower rank with regards to their popularity in society.
Certainly,
yes,
you see.
Yes.
And so that drives then everyone that's viewing this, the kids, you've got kids on social media that are viewing that stuff.
Yes.
They're not thinking, I should do something productive. Thinking, if I want to be cool, what do I do? I go out, I drink alcohol, I post shisha, I do that stuff. That's what's cool to them.
Absolutely.
You know, so.
And what do you think, perhaps, you know, as a young person of influence, if you are going to be in a position where you have decision-making power, as a young person, what do you think the age for you to begin to use these devices and gadgets should be? What age should we start in Zimbabwe particularly? To have a phone, to have an Instagram account, to have a Facebook account, even WhatsApp itself? It's a hard question.
It is. I think it does. Giving phones to kids, it does more harm than good.
Okay.
You know, you could think of benefits like being able to communicate and all of that stuff, but unless you set those, you know how you can set boundaries on the phone?
Yes, like YouTube for kids.
Exactly. There should be Instagram for kids. Strictly content for kids. You know, there's content for grown-ups because then it ruins their mindset. They end up thinking wrong. Yes.
Yeah. So taking a look at that, you know, we know for a fact, you said fame is a drug. We have an appreciation of some of the great names that we are seeing now and making trajectories in Zimbabwe. I would like to pose to you, if you know Kudakwashe Take Money Chiwandire? She's a female boxer.
Oh, the boxer?
Yes.
Yeah, I do
she's
know
a female boxer, and perhaps she's made her tracks and treads within Zimbabwe. We are also appreciating as well some of the big names within the cricket spaces, the likes of Sikandar Raza. You should know him. We are also taking a look at some of the names that are making, with regards to football itself as well, who are playing abroad. Any of the names? Any names you can think of off your feet?
Mahaji.
Yes, Mahaji.
What's the guy who was quite popular and wealthy? What's his name? The guy with the G-Wagon. Nakamba. Marvelous
Nakamba, yes. So we are taking a look at some of those names in sport. And we are also appreciating as well today on National Youth Day that the agricultural space is also being taken up. We do know on social media of the Ama 2K farm girl.
Yeah, I know her. She's a good friend of mine.
She's a good friend of yours. Yes, her name is Rutendo. And we are also speaking again to young people who are also making big names, big steps and trajectories, the likes of Michelle Guatarimba, who is one of the most astute farmers, young farmers, who are also pushing the narratives such as the Pfumvudza Intwasa program. And we also know that young people who are also taking up spaces in farming, are part of the Youth Agricultural Empowerment Scheme, where the president distributed 700 heifers, which were shared amongst the youth in all provinces in Zimbabwe as part of the presidential heifer pass-on scheme. And agriculture has provided alternative sources of income for youth, as some of the youth have been trading their certificates for full-time agricultural production. We are speaking of young people like Benson Maungwe. We are also speaking of young people like Nikros Kajengo, who's the Chief Coordinator of Youth at the Ministry of Lands, Agriculture, and into Fisheries, Water and Rural Development. We also know of Terry Maps. I don't know if you've seen him on Twitter. Yes, he also has a spot now. Kwateri.
Yeah, I know the guy.
So have you eaten at Kwateri?
Not yet. I'm planning to.
Yes. So those are young people who are making trades. He has his own project. I think it's chickens. That he has managed to also create amazing trajectories and footsteps towards also just building the economy and also contributing to the gross domestic product here in Zimbabwe. Now, we want to circle back, Kevin, to the theme today. Drug and substance abuse, which is a threat to Vision 2030. It's every community's responsibility. Now, you are speaking to me coming from a context of Budiriro. We do know that there are other spaces, we do know that Kuadzana, we do know Kambuzuma, all these areas, we call them quote unquote the ghettos, for lack of a better word. But all these areas also have young people who are, a big shout out to all those in Tiwara Sekwa, which is DZ. We know that these areas also have young people who can actively contribute to the economy. Now, vafana vanenge vari mageto vanosangana, and mukusangana kwawo, what do you think they could be discussing that will then stop them from saying, okay, nhasi toda kumbopinda mudendere, nhasi toda kumborohwa nezvinhu, takatandara, takastika, quote unquote. What do you think what ideas? Because you're speaking of ideas. Yes, to have that paradigm shift, to shift that narrative, to upset that equilibrium. What should we do?
You're talking of business ideas or like just ideas that could help push?
I think for me, before we even get into business, maybe I am wrong, but socially, mukusangana kwedu, there's certain things we could just be doing. And perhaps even build us rather than for us to say that we're just meeting up and getting high.
No.
Yeah.
So what I think is, this is nature's way of controlling.
Okay.
There are two extremes.
Yes.
There has to be an example of one that has succumbed to drugs. Then they see that, no, this guy has passed on because of this. We can't do this. I've seen it happen in Mavugu. Some guy took some drugs, passed on, changed. Yeah. Then there has to be the opposite. Someone has to excel from that very same construct that they come from. They see that, this guy is just like us, comes from a place like us.
And he's managed to do it.
So there also has to be someone that comes from within the group of the guys that are taking drugs and changes and see that this guy changed. So
that's
you can also
the
do it.
upsetting of the equilibrium.
So I feel like those are nature's way of controlling those things. We can't really, it's not really a man-made solution, but it's somehow nature balances it in a way.
Oh yes. And it's quite important also to take into cognizance that some of these drugs and the substances that are being abused are quite expensive, and young people are now taking interest, or rather finding latitude to be funding these lifestyles the wrong way. And many of them are now also being found in very, very compromising positions. For example, being arrested, for example, being shamed on social media because they want to find ways to support habits. How would you say that we can perhaps try our best not to get involved in these things, and then decide also after saying we're not being involved in these things, we also shun the idea of finding ourselves being shamed on social media?
Right, that's a tricky one. I could say I don't have an answer to that, but I offer this as a thought. it's an issue of identity, knowing where you come from, you know, knowing that, do you know that having a bad reputation is one thing that will stop so many doors from opening, you know? Just be the guy that's got a good reputation, good track record. It'll open so many doors for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you so much there, Kevin. Obviously, your contribution to this conversation has been very important as well as integral. I'm pretty sure those who know Kevin Mazhindu, a young entrepreneur, are excited to hear more of the ideas that he has here on a National Youth Day. Now, this is the ZBC News and Current Affairs Desk. We are excited to be speaking to each and every one of the Zimbabweans and young people here on a ZBC. You can see the atmosphere is vibrant, it's exciting. It is a youth day, and at Lupane State University, which I do personally wish that I was there on the ground just to experience a little bit of what is happening there. We do know, or you have heard, that in solidarity with the day and what the theme is standing for, President Emerson Mnangagwa is present there and is going to be also speaking to some of the issues affecting the youth. Now, to further the conversation in a studio, we are thinking or talking all things to do with the arts, and Caespido Chigama, who's part of the House of Arts here in Zimbabwe, is here to speak to us. Welcome to the studio, Caespido.
Thank you so much.
Yes. You do look like an artist. You can see the full drip, as they call it.
Drip. No. Magalis Freeman.
Magalis Freeman.
Yeah.
Yes. We were speaking to some of the exciting artists who have contributed, Freeman being one of them. And we know that many of the artists, like yourself, are also contributing in a major way to what the youth trajectory or the youth narrative is. Now, tell us a little bit more about this House of Arts that you're representing.
So House of Arts is a network of young artists who came together. We started off as just artists. I think that was back in 2016. We emerged from Heathcliff. I was staying in Heathcliff. So in fact, I come from Heathcliff.
Oh, lovely. Big shout out to all those from Heathcliff who are watching today.
So the idea was for us to be able to create our own platforms for performance. Because when we started, it was a time when National AIDS Council used to come with programs in Heathcliff together with the Ministry of Youth. So they would come with artists from outside, Iwawana Freeman, Jalav. So it was really hard for artists for the local artists in Heathcliff to get a platform. So we then pleaded with the National AIDS Council, and then they helped us to say, okay, fine, organize yourselves so that when we come up with these platforms, you then come as a collective, and then we help you to get a slot. So that's how we organized ourselves, and we became more of an organization. But in fact, it was more of a group. We were calling ourselves Heathcliff Arts Association.
But you guys didn't want to segregate yourselves, so
exactly.
now you became a House of Arts.
Exactly, because we ended up looking at it in a way that we thought it's no longer just about creating platforms. Because when I remember we had our first event, because the idea first was to chip in or to get in onto platforms by the Ministry of Youth or by the National AIDS Council. But then later on, we started thinking that, okay, fine, what if we try to organize our own events and then we give ourselves our own platform? So by doing that, we started engaging with the authorities, with the council, until we realized we are actually creating dialogues between the young people and the local authorities. So from then, we started also engaging other artists from outside of Heathcliff. And then we thought, okay, we are limiting ourselves by the name Heathcliff. So let's also try to upgrade ourselves. Then we became a house. And we're no longer focusing only on just musicians, but we are looking at all the types of arts, because the events that we're doing.
What other arts avenues are you guys spreading your wings in?
Poetry, filming, acting. You can talk about it. Even if you think that you have invented your own type of art. Some people may say, maybe I love laughing. That's my art. So can I use that to say very artistic? It's art. You're welcome.
I love that. Thank you so much. So the key word there is, I think, takeaway is participation. And Caespido, I will not lie to you. Many young people want to participate, They want to contribute to the gross domestic product of the country. They want some of their stories to be heard and to be told. Unfortunately, platforms like yours are not easy to come by. How do you think that someone, perhaps you are from Hatcliffe, someone from Hatfield, can create a platform like yours for other young people to participate? What is the first step? Take us through.
So the idea is not only about you being able to create. So for me, how I started was we were also volunteering. We were also looking out for programs that are coming with different organizations. So this organization would come and they would invite us as young people. And we were linked up by the Minister of Youth, actually.
Yes.
And then we started off
So the first step is to go to the Ministry of Youth.
That is the first step.
The Ministry of Youth gives an opportunity, fair and equal opportunity, to every young person who's out there trying to participate in something artistic.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the best idea, because the Minister of Youth is the, what they call them, the custodian of the young people.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So they know, and they've got the links to every other organization that may come with any program.
For example, the Zimbabwe Youth Council.
Exactly.
Okay.
And for example, House of Arts Association.
Absolutely. So you are an affiliate via the House of Arts. Are you an affiliate to the ministry as well?
Yes.
And affiliate to the Zimbabwe Youth Council as well?
As well as the National Arts Council.
And the National Arts Council.
Yeah.
So you're speaking to the arts industry with the youth directly.
Exactly.
Okay. Excellent, excellent. Because it's bringing me to our next question, which is speaking to opportunities that perhaps may not be accessible. This is not limited to the arts sector, but these are opportunities for young people to even be part of leadership positions, for example. How do you think that, as an artist and as someone who with a creative, I always love to call you guys creatives. As creatives, how do you think that you'll be taken seriously when it comes to roles of leadership in Zimbabwe, and especially considering that you're young people?
I think so your leadership also is resembled by what you do as a young person. So unogona uchiimba.
But in name chungonzi murema guitar amusi serious.
Yeah.
Tokupa ma opportunities same muchipeka ma chain muchidai.
That's also the other thing that we want to try and change. That's the narrative that we also want to try and change as House of Arts. We want to redefine and rebrand what people think artists are.
It's a perception.
Exactly, because it's just something jaguti takakura, for example, nyaya dzema-drugs. Takatongokura tichiunzwa kuti munhu ukamuona achiperform ane energy yakawanda on stage. He's high. He's high, he's on drugs. But perhaps someone was practicing all week or maybe all the whole month practice so that he can perform. So I think it's a matter of us trying to rebrand and redefine what people call an artist. The creativity in the artist, ku separate kuti, okay, this is an artist and kana kuita zvebasa, this is now Caespido. So I am Caespido, but I'm also Caespido. When I'm in House of Arts, of course I was Caespido before House of Arts, and Caespido helped me to come up with House of Arts.
So I'm going to stop you right there. Caespido, if you are going to come to set right now, perhaps unema loksago. Oh, you don't look at creative. You don't go to this is my look, and this is what the identity or the brand Caespido is. Locks, Marasta, they're already associated with Team Renata say. I'm not going to say too much because we have some police officers in studio. But we already know for a fact that there's already that perception that people within the arts, Guka, Toriro, Mbanje yacho, Doro, zvese zvinodhaka, zvinongonzi ndokwa zvinobva. How do we cut that line or that chain of having that direct association? Also now, because I mentioned the looks, the outward look looks like, Team Renata say, notongorowa kudhara.
So I think nzvimbo nenzvimbo ine zvayo and basa nebasa rine mitemo yaro. I wouldn't know when you talk about maybe assuming leadership positions kuti kumtemo kwacho kune here a certain dressing inodiwa but kana kune a certain dressing inodiwa ikoko you wear zvinoenderana neikoko but kana zvisiri pamutemo I wouldn't want and I wouldn't advise people to judge someone based on what they are wearing.
So you see the arts minister, for example, in the next few years, if Caespido as a legislator, as the arts minister, Caespido is walking into parliament looking like a creative with his jeans, you don't want that limitation.
I don't want that limitation. So I'm going to what we know about, Mbare. Since we work in Mbare, we work in all these marginalized communities. Heathcliff, Mbare, Epworth, Hopley, all these ones. Munakati ndobva kuMbare. There's a certain perspective yawakutomutarisa nayo. Unotanga kufunga kuti saka ndibirwe here, unotanga kubata my phone. But these young people from Mbare are the ones vari kutoita kuti also fadza ichoite basa remusoro. We are doing engagements. We are working with the police. We are working with the government. And
big shout out to those from Mbare. What I do know for a fact, because of my personal experiences with them, is that the young people from Mbare are passionate. They are real. They are genuine. And they're so articulate with regards to what they want, and everything is, I think the right word is authentic.
Exactly.
Yes. They're authentic young people with an artistic mind. Saka kanauri kunonzi kumbil, no?
Mbiles, yeah.
Mbiles. Kanauri kumbiles. Salute to you.
Yeah. So that is exactly. So the thing is, people have got a certain narrative. So now it's our role as artists, because we believe if you're an artist, somehow you are an influencer. You may have 2 followers, but your influence, or you have gotten your art, your products have got an impact to these 2 followers that you have.
Okay.
So we may do it slowly, but surely, we are trying to rebrand and to redefine these communities. Kuti vanhu vachitanga kufunga kuti alright, Mnakanza anobva kuMbare, it does not mean he's a thief or he's a drug abuser or whatever. If I'm coming from Heathcliff, it does not mean that maybe I'm poor or whatever. It's a community. We need to treat these communities as equal. So that is what we are trying to do as artists. And now we are also roping in sport, because we believe sport is a creative activity. So to us, it's also part of art. That's why we are using sport even to address the issues to do with drugs. That's why we came up with initiatives like Sports Against Drugs, etc. We are trying to just use what we can, or these activities that we can do, so that we also engage these young people and we get them to do something, and we get them to understand that they can actually make a change, or they can actually contribute to their own development, or to the development of their own communities.
Yeah, taking into cognizance Caespido, that Zimbabwe is taking up, the youth are taking up 35% of the population in Zimbabwe. We actually do appreciate that you are standing up for that 35%. Always an exciting conversation here on ZBCTv. We were speaking to Caspar Chigama, who is an artist from the House of Arts, and we have managed also to have a conversation in depth to do with some of the things that affect the youth, and particularly the arts industry in Zimbabwe.
And you have seen those presenters, those people that came through to really celebrate the National Youth Day. Curtly, it was an amazing day for the young people here in Zimbabwe.
Absolutely.
And like you've seen some of them being awarded with certificates. How are you feeling? We should have been there. We should have gotten some certificates.
We did see a lot of that, and most definitely we got to see the young people who are involved in entrepreneurship, not just that, also mining, and also young people with disabilities, all receiving some accolades from the president himself, Dr. Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa. We also got to get a little bit of experience with regards to some of the young people who play important roles with regards to testifying some of the experiences with drug and substance abuse, and how they have managed to turn over a new leaf and are now living proper and straightforward lives because of being able to turn over and be rehabilitated essentially here in Zimbabwe. What we also do know, Ian, is that there's an interministerial task force that is specifically set aside to fight drug abuse in Zimbabwe.
And the president rightfully said that the young people last year, when you're commemorating this day, were crying out to say, government, may you please give us money. to fight drug and substance abuse. And the government, it is a listening government, the money was disbursed, and we have seen the minister confirming that so much has been done, including setting up of rehabilitation centers, almost each in every province. And that is so important, because when you look at young people in Zimbabwe, they are abusing drugs.
Yes.
Some of them, they get arrested. But then what's next? The key part becomes rehabilitation. And of course, like the president rightfully said, that the young people of today are the economic drivers. We are obviously on a journey to become an upper middle-income society by 2030, which is running under the theme leaving no one and no place behind. Of course, young people should not be left behind. And you mentioned the issue of people with the disabilities. We have seen the inclusion that is currently happening there. We have seen an MC who is visually impaired. So many occasions we see this. Maybe it's because of the young people.
Oh yes, the young people. Yes, it's a youthful
and
day
indeed. See that a lot.
And also taking into cognizance, Ian, that we as young people between the ages of 15 and 35 are taking up the population to a figure and statistic that perhaps many of our viewers may not even know, which is slightly above 60%, which speaks volumes to how much we can contribute to the gross domestic product in Zimbabwe, how much we can change the narrative in Zimbabwe, and how much of an impact we can affect some of the spaces that we take up. Still speaking of the spaces, in a studio today we did have a diverse amount of guests. We did manage to see you speak to the man himself, the spokesperson for the Zimbabwe Republic Police, which is who is Assistant Commissioner Paul Nyati, and he came at length with some of the issues that are currently in season relevant. We did hear a little bit of the background behind the Dominican convent school issue, and how the issue of drugs is just rampant amongst young people. You know, the use, abuse, overuse of drugs is absolutely supposed to be eradicated, and we are speaking to the idea that it's a community's responsibility. So from community level, what is essentially being said is that we should start at grassroots level and not expect the leadership to be doing or making these changes, but rather starting with the charity that is said that is beginning at home.
Well, of course, it is your responsibility, it is my responsibility, and it is, of course, your responsibility at home. When you see people that are abusing drugs, you have to report, and they've been talking of it to say, see something, say something, do not remain quiet. Those are the words that came through from Asko Munyati, explaining in terms of the role that the community will play, just like the theme is saying, that it's a community's responsibility. And Curtly, maybe around issues of empowerment, we have seen the president explaining when it comes to agriculture that there are youth desk with each and every ministry, and the Minister of Agriculture has done so much. Do you have a farm?
Absolutely, most definitely, most definitely. And we also got to speak to Caespido, who is a local artist here in Zimbabwe of the House of Arts. We also managed to speak to the young entrepreneur, Kevin Mazhindu, and most definitely we are taking care of all things to do with youth today. But as for now, Ian, I think I'm going to unbutton, and I'm also going to
take my
yes, most definitely. It is Youth Day, and most definitely from us at Pockets Hill, we are going to say we are signing off. Happy National Youth Day. This is a day, the 21st of February, that we use to make sure that we remember what the young people stand for, especially in this Zimbabwean context. From me, Curtly Gwindi, and my co-presenter Ian Rambe,
we say.
And yes, it is a good afternoon, and God bless Zimbabwe.